So, just when you thought this whole She-Hulk versus Ryan Reynolds drama couldn't possibly get any more ridiculous, guess what? Tatiana Maslany just took things to a whole new level of cringe. It's like she's digging her own grave. But instead of a shovel, she's using a megaphone to make sure everyone's watching. Here's what's new. Tatiana Maslany has apparently had enough of being overshadowed by Ryan Reynolds and is now launching a full-on PR campaign to save face. She's out here giving interviews, claiming that She-Hulk didn't flop because it was bad, but because it was misunderstood and ahead of its time. Misunderstood? Ahead of its time? Oh please, Tatiana, this isn't Blade Runner. It's a poorly written show with fourth wall breaks that made Deadpool look subtle. But here's the kicker. Maslany is now shifting the blame to Ryan himself. In her latest interview, she actually had the audacity to say that the failure of She-Hulk wasn't just because of bad writing or the fact that the CGI looked like it was done on Microsoft Paint, but because of a toxic work environment behind the scenes at Marvel. And surprise, surprise, she's pointing the finger at none other than Ryan Reynolds. Apparently, according to Tatiana, the reason her scenes were cut from Deadpool and Wolverine had less to do with fan backlash and more to do with Reynolds' ego. She's even claiming that Ryan sabotaged her character's future because she was too much of a threat to his dominance as Deadpool. I mean, is this woman serious? Ryan Reynolds is the guy who basically carried Deadpool on his back for years when Fox couldn't care less about it. He's not out here worried about a CGI lawyer in stretchy green spandex taking over his spotlight. But, of course, this is all part of Maslany's new narrative. She's desperately trying to make herself look like the victim, like she was held back by powerful men in the industry. Let's be real for a second. This is the same tired story we've heard from countless other actors in failed Disney projects. When it's clear that no one wants to see their character again, what do? Blame everyone else but themselves. Just look at Brie Larson after Captain Marvel underwhelmed, claiming it was the critics' fault and not the fact that her character came across as wooden and unlikable. Or how about Kelly Marie Tran after the Star Wars sequel trilogy disaster? Instead of accepting that Rose Tico was a horribly written character shoehorned into an already messy narrative, she pinned it all on the so-called toxic fanbase. And now, Tatiana's going after Ryan because apparently taking zero responsibility for your own failures is the new Hollywood trend. And you know what's hilarious? Ryan could just ignore her and let this nonsense fade into oblivion. But instead, in classic Ryan Reynolds fashion, he responded in the most brilliant way possible. Sources are saying he sent a subtle, yet savage, tweet aimed right at Maslany. He didn't call her out directly, of course, because why give her the satisfaction? But he did tweet something about how some people just can't accept that sometimes it's not the world against them, it's their bad choices catching up. Boom. Of course, the internet exploded with people knowing exactly who he was talking about. And honestly, it was the perfect move. Ryan's not stooping to her level, he's just casually reminding everyone that, no, he didn't sabotage her career. She's just not a good fit for the MCU. If anything, she sabotaged herself by starring in one of the most widely panned shows in Marvel history. Now, you would think at this point, Tatiana would just cut her losses, stop throwing punches, and maybe focus on finding her next project. But no, she's doubling down. Rumor has it she's even trying to rally other MCU actresses like Brie Larson to join her in calling out sexism in Marvel. Oh great, the Captain Marvel actress, the queen of unearned smugness, is going to team up with Tatiana to turn this into some weird crusade against oppression in the MCU. Because that's exactly what Marvel needs right now, another publicity nightmare. This whole situation is just sad at this point. Tatiana Maslany has gone from being a promising actress who could have done something decent with She-Hulk to becoming the poster child for failed Disney projects. And instead of owning up to the fact that She-Hulk was a dumpster fire, she's blaming Ryan Reynolds for not wanting to work with her. Newsflash, Tatiana, maybe if you focused on improving your character and performance instead of turning this into a soap opera, you wouldn't be in this mess. And let's talk about Disney for a second, because they're still trying to play the mediator in this feud. They're apparently offering to throw Tatiana into another MCU project, but it's not even clear what it would be at this point. A cameo in Avengers Secret Wars, a random appearance in some Disney Plus series nobody asked for. Who knows? All I know is Ryan's not having it, and neither are the fans. But if you thought the Ryan Reynolds versus Tatiana Maslany feud had hit rock bottom, guess again, because it just keeps sinking lower. In a move that no one saw coming, Tatiana has now dragged Deadpool fans into the mix, basically accusing them of being part of the reason for her downfall. That's right, folks. We're at the stage where the She-Hulk actress has started blaming the fanbase for why her career isn't skyrocketing post-MCU. This, honestly, is just pathetic at this point. Here's what happened. Maslany was on a podcast recently, and in what was supposed to be a simple, harmless chat, she somehow veered into this rant about toxic fan culture and how Deadpool fans, yes, the people who literally made the franchise the success it is, are apparently the ones fueling this whole situation. According to her, the fanbase is too aggressive and too male-dominated. Classic, and that's why they're more supportive of Ryan Reynolds than of her. Oh please, what a weak excuse. Let's be real here. Ryan Reynolds has earned the loyalty of Deadpool fans because he put in the work. He fought tooth and nail for that character for years before anyone cared. And now Tatiana's out here pretending that the fanbase is some kind of gatekeeping boys club because her portrayal of She-Hulk didn't resonate. It's not because of some secret conspiracy to prop up Ryan Reynolds. It's because her show was frankly a disaster. If it had been good, like really good, the fans would have embraced her. But no, instead of facing the fact that She-Hulk didn't land with audiences, she's playing the victim card again, this time pointing fingers at the very people she should have been trying to win over. And of course, Ryan's sitting back and watching this mess unfold with the kind of laid-back, trolling attitude that only he can pull off. I mean, can you imagine how ridiculous this all must seem to him? He's out here making billion-dollar movies with Hugh Jackman, while Maslany is dragging herself through this self-inflicted PR nightmare. The latest word is that Ryan doesn't even care to respond to this new attack. He's smart. He knows feeding into her nonsense will only give it more oxygen, but it doesn't take a genius to see that she's grasping at straws, and every time she opens her mouth, she's losing what little goodwill she has left. Meanwhile, Disney is caught in the middle of this ever-growing dumpster fire, and they have no clue what to do. You can almost feel the panic behind the scenes. Bob Iger's over here scrambling, trying to salvage whatever's left of the MCU after Phase 4 completely alienated its core audience, and now he's got this feud blowing up in his face. It's bad enough that the MCU has been on a downward spiral with flop after flop, but now they've got one of their own actors taking potshots at their most successful franchise. Not a great look, Disney. Not at all. And get this, there's even talk now that Kevin Feige is considering cutting ties with Tatiana altogether. No surprise there. After everything she said, it seems like even Marvel is done with her. And let's be real here. What does Maslany think she's going to achieve by going after Reynolds and the fanbase? Does she actually believe that Kevin's going to be like, oh yeah, we should definitely bring her back to carry the MCU? No, it's the exact opposite. He's smart enough to know that this is the last kind of drama they need while trying to rebuild their brand. And honestly, who's siding with Tatiana at this point? She's made it abundantly clear that she's more interested in complaining than in actually fixing the mess that is her MCU reputation. The whole toxic fanbase narrative is such a lazy cop-out. It's the go-to excuse for actors who can't accept that they didn't deliver on the job. And let's not even get started on the hypocrisy of it all. You don't see Ryan out here whining about the She-Hulk fanbase being too small or not getting him. He moves on, makes better movies, and gives the fans what they actually want. Good content. It's called being a professional. Tatiana, you should try it sometime. But wait, it gets better. Word on the street is that Disney is now in full damage control mode, and they're even considering editing some of Maslany's She-Hulk appearances out of future MCU projects just to distance themselves from this whole mess. It's hilarious when you think about it. She spent all this time fighting to keep her scenes in Deadpool and other projects, and now she's just making it easier for Disney to push her out the door. It's like she's determined to make herself unemployable in Hollywood, one disastrous interview at a time. If there's one thing this whole situation proves, it's that Ryan's in a completely different league, and Tatiana just doesn't belong in the same conversation. So what's next? Does Tatiana keep digging herself deeper, or does she finally figure out that this whole victim routine isn't working? Personally, I'm betting on more drama. Because if there's one thing we've learned from her, it's that she's all in on the self-sabotage.